this episode of the Smartphone Show, there's a spotlight on the Nokia 9500 Communicator, a look at the extremely rare Panasonic X700 smartphone on import, and a spotlight on the TMobile Mdavario, plus a complete introduction to smartphones everywhere. Welcome to the pilot episode of the Smartphone Show. What's it all about? Well, smartphones of course, but what makes a smartphone smart? Why are we bothering? Regular phones, or feature phones, are now often pretty powerful in their own right, with music players and cameras, but you can only extend them, i.e. get them to do more than is available out of the box, by adding Java applets and games which are relatively limited in their scope. A true smartphone runs a recognised operating system such as Symbian OS, Windows Mobile or Palm OS, on top of which you can add hundreds if not thousands of extra applications, any of which has full access to the smartphone's hardware. So for example, your smartphone can be your music player, your satellite navigator, your video recorder, your games console, your email communications centre, your web access, your diary, your project manager, and so on. Not every single smartphone can do all of this to the same degree, but that's where the Smartphone Show comes in, reviewing your options and being honest about what's great and what's disappointing. As this is the first programme, let's start with a roundup of the principal smartphones on the market. Although the models here were sourced in the UK, most of them are available in all of the countries with only minor variations. The market leader by some margin is currently Nokia, who produce a range of smartphones based on Symbian OS, a mainly British operating system that evolved from the software inside Cyan organisers. Remember them? The best-selling smartphones are those using what they call Series 60, S60, a powerful one-handed interface designed for smartphones that can be operated with one hand if necessary. Remember that traditional PDAs, personal digital assistants, the dominant mobile computing devices of the last 10 years, they're mainly stylus-based, requiring you to have both hands free in order to do anything. With Series 60 you can reply to emails, operate the device and play games while hanging from a tube strap or walking down the street. This is a typical Series 60 smartphone, the Nokia 6630, a model that's around a year old now. The form factor is usually, for Series 60, your typical candy bar, of comparable size to traditional mobile phones, and all Series 60 smartphones have Bluetooth, so that you can beam things wirelessly to your PC or to other smartphones. And most are also now 3G, meaning fast internet access. Most recent Series 60 smartphones plug straight into a USB port on your PC for backing up your data and applications, and for syncing across your Outlook, personal information, photos and so on. Taking a quantum leap in terms of size at least, a Nokia Series 80 smartphones. This is the Nokia 9500, also known as the Communicator, appearing at first to be a grotesquely oversized mobile, but here's the trick, it's a clamshell. Open it up and there's a full QWERTY keyboard and VGA width screen. Add in a pretty superb multitasking operating system so you can switch instantaneously between dozens of applications, plus Wi-Fi and stereo music output, and you've got a very capable device, if you can stomach the size. There's a smaller model, the 9300, with no camera or Wi-Fi, although this perhaps crosses the line between size and usability. If you're going to have a smartphone that doubles as a laptop, you might as well go for one with a usable keyboard and navigator key. Also running Symbian OS under the hood is the P range of smartphones from Sony Ericsson, although judging by their rate of evolution of new models, their heart doesn't really seem in it. The P800, P900 as shown here, and P910 are all Sony Ericsson have produced in the last 3 years, although a new model, the P990, is due in the next few months, and this may salvage their sales figure somewhat. Each of the P models is stylus driven. You open the numeric keypad and you have a stylus driven PDA using the Symbian UIQ interface. Away from Symbian OS, in second place in terms of market share is the world of Windows Mobile. Although you can't run desktop Windows applications on these smartphones, there are some similarities, and syncing with Outlook and Windows is generally a doddle. Windows Mobile devices are available in candy bar style, for example the orange SPV C600, in similar manner to Symbian Series 60. This is a one-handed interface, but this is equally typical. This is the TMobile Mdavario and combines a stylus interface with an innovative sliding keyboard mechanism, giving you the best of both worlds. So you have a landscape screen, QWERTY keyboard, slide it closed, and you're back to a PDA or a small smartphone. Going bigger again are Orange's SPV M5000 and T-Mobile's MDA Pro with a VGA screen and a tablet-like flip and rotate mechanism, and we'll be featuring more Windows Mobile smartphones in the near future on the Smartphone Show. The other popular smartphone platform is Palm OS, with industry legend Jeff Hawkins designing what is effectively a Palm Pilot with phone and thumb keyboard. This is the latest Palm Trio 650, combining the strengths of Palm OS, its simple interface and huge software catalogue, with the all-in-one nature of the smartphone. Has been a big success, especially in the USA, although Palm have been hedging their bets recently with a Windows Mobile powered Trio now available in some countries. So which is the smartphone for you? As ever, there's no perfect device for everyone. This is why we're going to give you hands-on coverage of all the main contenders in the first series of the Smartphone Show. But whichever you plumb for, be very aware that buying a smartphone and using it to its full capabilities will change the way you live. Really.
Here we are with our promised hands-on look at the Nokia 9500 Communicator. The cover phone isn't much to talk about. You can start the camera, you can read your messages and make phone calls, of course. But if you open the clamshell, you'll soon see where the power is. For starters, there's this nice 640 pixel wide screen, VGA width, and a pretty good keyboard, along with a row of shortcuts along the top, which I'll come to in a moment. The desktop is much like Windows. You can put in shortcuts to applications or to documents or URLs on the internet and so on, and you can arrange them in folders to suit the way you want to work. Using the shortcuts along the top, if I cycle between telephone, messaging, web, contacts, documents, calendar, and the My Own key, which I've got set pointing to my media player, my music player, you can see that each of these is brought up instantaneously. There's no waiting whatsoever, and that's because these programs are already running. Symbian OS is a proper multitasking operating system, and if I press the menu key, in addition to the normal drop-down menus that you'd see in any application, on the left-hand menu card you see there's a list of all the running programs. Now you can either use this list to switch to them instantly, or better, just to get an appreciation of what's running, so that when you do go into the appropriate shortcut, either on the application keys or via the desktop, you know that it's going to come up instantaneously rather than take 2 or 3 seconds to start. Having the wide screen is very handy for documents, and it's very handy for web browsing. It's also handy for multimedia, using third-party applications like Smart Movie. We can have video running. This is about at half screen width, at which the frame rate's pretty decent, but if you drop the frame rate down slightly, or have something that's less graphically intense, you could use 3/4 of the screen and have a really decent widescreen picture. This is Pink Floyd at Live 8, by the way. Just stop to let you enjoy the music. So that's the Nokia 9500. In the next programme, hopefully, we'll have a bit more of a look at the 9300, its sister, and the new 9300i, which has Wi-Fi added. I'll see you then.
And now over to guest reviewer Thomas Boys for his preview of the latest Panasonic Series 60 smartphone.
Today on the Smartphone Show, we're looking at Panasonic's second Series 60 offering, the X800. At present, this phone is only available in Asia, and the only way to get hold of one in the UK is via an online seller such as eBay. The Panasonic X800 is one of the smallest smartphones currently available on the market, and is comparable in size and thickness to the Motorola V3 Razr. If we open the phone up and look at it from the side, it's quite impressive that they've managed to fit smartphone capabilities into a phone as thin as this one. As we move through the main menu on the Panasonic X800, we see all of the Personal Information Manager or PIM applications such as calendar and contacts. What makes the Panasonic X800 especially appealing to business users is the group of applications known as Quick Office. These applications allow a user to edit documents on the go. If we look at the front of the smartphone, we can see the camera mounted at the top here. The display on the front gives the current status of the phone, such as signal strength and battery strength. It also shows you, just raise it up a bit there, it also shows you your operator and the date and time. By pressing the button again on the side, it toggles through to an analog clock display, which can be quite handy for checking the time in a hurry. If we look at the side of the phone now, on the side we have the slot for the memory card. Now, with most mobile phones these days, the space on the phone itself is very limited, and as such, by using memory cards such as the one here, you can increase the amount of storage available to your phone for things such as music, pictures and applications. All in all, there's a lot to recommend about the Panasonic X800. It is difficult to get hold of, but if you do have the fortune to find one on eBay, I think you'll find it is well worth the effort.
So as promised, this is the TMobile Mdavario, a mid-price, a mid-range smartphone halfway between the candy bar form factors of things like the SPVC 600 and the VGA monstrosities that are things like the MDA Pro and Orange M5000 and so on. The standout feature of this form factor, the otherwise known as the HTC Wizard, is the fact that the keyboard and main body slide out from the side, and the screen then switches into a landscape orientation. For example, here in the calendar, and I was previously typing a document in Word Mobile. The keyboard isn't bad, but it's very clicky and quite hard work. Pressing the keys down does require a bit of effort, and you really wouldn't want to type anything too long, but the keys are nicely spaced and it's easy to hit the right one. We'll slide it closed for now, and the screen switches back to portrait orientation. Moving around the hardware, there's a button at the top left assigned to what Windows Mobile calls Comms Manager. Pressing it gives you shortcuts to turn Wi-Fi on and off, vibrate on and off, Bluetooth on and off, and Active Sync, of course. This is new for Windows Mobile 5. Below that there's a volume control, so you can easily adjust the master system volume, especially useful in a call, of course. On the bottom right is a camera button, which turns the camera on and also switches into landscape mode, even if the keyboard's closed, so that you can take pictures with the right orientation. Very easy to use, and the buttons are in just the right place. Well done, TMobile. We've just taken a photo. Also on the side of the unit is a voice tag button for activating any voice commands you may have set up. It's vanilla Windows Mobile 5.0, which is largely a good thing, although the monstrosity of the settings dialogues is still something you have to navigate. There are the function keys here, by the way, calendar and contacts. They're the soft keys that can be activated by these two buttons or those two buttons if you're in portrait mode, and this system works well as well. The programs which were previously scattered in one huge dialogue, one huge browser, are now grouped. So for example, Messages goes to Messaging and an email wizard. Organizer brings up a grouping of calendar, calculator, notes and tasks, and so on, so that when you do go into programs, there's not quite so much there to fight your way through, and it's easy to find the one you want. Overall then, a pretty competent smartphone, especially with the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. The keyboard isn't bad, although it could be better. The size is great for just putting to your ear and carrying around. and there's a lot to recommend the TMobile Mdavario.
Here's a regular feature of the smartphone show, it's hints and tips.
We've talked a lot about multitasking on the smartphone show, especially in regard to Symbian OS, but Windows Mobile has multitasking too. It's just not quite as easy to switch running programs or see what's running. Most modern Windows Mobile devices do have plenty of RAM, and it's unlikely to be a problem that you run out of RAM. But to see what is running, tap on Start, then Settings, then System, then Memory, and then Running Programs, and you can see what's in the list. Now this is rather torturous, you wouldn't want to do this every day. If you do want to switch very quickly between running programs and to explore this list and to make sure you don't run out of RAM, there are third-party utilities which we'll cover in a future program. Here's a useful tip if you use messaging a lot on your Pocket PC or Windows Mobile smartphone. It's very easy when receiving attachments to fill up your internal disk, your internal flash memory, and then run into all sorts of problems because the operating system won't work properly. Far better to put your attachments on your storage card, your SD card. So tap on Menu, then Tools, then Options, and you'll see a tab at the bottom marked Storage. Tap on Storage and there's an item halfway up, Store Attachments on Storage Card.
This may sound like an obvious tip, but I get asked about it almost every time I go out to meetings in the PDA or smartphone world. Where do I get my black Nokia smartphone? They don't make them in black, do they? Well, no, but Nokia's Express On cover system very cleverly means the back comes off and the front comes off and the keypad comes off. Your next stop is eBay, where you can get replacements for your original silver covers, gold if you fancy something a bit classy, or for a couple of dollars or a couple of pounds, next to nothing, a rubberized black front and back fascia and a replacement keypad. So it really is simple. That's about it now for Programme 1 of the Smartphone Show. I do hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Thanks to Thomas Boyes for his contributions as always. As you'll see from the website, I'm writing about smartphones and producing this show full time now. Future programmes do depend entirely on people like you making a small one-time donation to the project, so do please consider it. I'd love to hear your comments on the Smartphone Show, so please email in. Bye for now.